Welcome back to Max User Lessons once more, and this one is how to write a summary. Yes, we do have another summary video on this channel. This one is just additional information, and probably it will add a little bit more clarity than the one before. So thank you for stopping in. Thank you for remaining as subscribers. If you're new, thank you so much for joining the channel. Let's get straight into how to write a summary. And at first, of course, we'll talk about what is a summary. Now, the summary is a record of a reader's own words. And this recording of your own words will only give the main points of a piece of writing, because when you write a summary, you can also be summarizing a newspaper article, you can be summarizing a whole book, you can be summarizing a chapter of a book that you have read, or you could be summarizing a class lecture that you have heard, you could be summarizing a movie. Just about anything can be summarized. Now, when you're writing the summary, though, you must take out the details. So even if the speaker goes into great details with explanations and examples, you do not need to write those in your summary, because you do not want your own interpretation there either. What you want is just the basic main points of what is presented for you to summarize. Now, when do we use a summary? In general terms, summaries are used to improve your ability to read and recall the details, because it forces you as a reader to understand the whole or something rather than just following each word in a sentence. In other words, writing a summary helps you to get past that whole idea where you repeat what the person has said word for word. Instead, you have that main concept of what the person has said and you put that in your own words. Now, you can also use the summary for purposes of reading something that is important for your studies, or it may be difficult for you to understand. And what you do is, having read it, you just put down all those main ideas that you got from it, so later on it will help you to refresh your memory. Now, when we also talk about summary, we're thinking about those people who are writing academic papers, and where people need to put in something, some summary of something that they have read. For example, you may want to summarize the main parts of your literature book. That will help you to write an essay relating to a given theme. And so that is also another instance where you will summarize a piece. Now, the first steps to writing a summary. When you are reading the original passage, what you need to do is to underline the important points and all the important evidence that you find there. For example, one of the things that I say to students is, when you're summarizing an essay, for example, you underline all those topic sentences and the words that are repeated, and these words are likely to be the keywords. So you want to underline those key ideas in the topic sentence, or you want to underline the key words that are repeated. Now, also, when you're writing the summary, you need to list or to put into groups the main idea of the whole piece. So when you have read it for the first time, and when you're writing a summary, yes, you have to read it through without thinking of the main ideas, just for reading it. You just read it without thinking about the main idea, and then you go back and you will now put all of those main things that you remember, the most important things, in groups, or you can list them, because this will allow you to write your summary more effectively based on what you have read and have thought as the main ideas. You can use the same keywords, or you can use technical expressions. This will help you, and it's unavoidable in many ways, yes, but it will also be helpful when you are writing your own summary. But in doing this, you have to be careful to express the ideas in your own words. You can use your own vocabulary and expressions as best as you can, but you cannot forget that you are to put the main ideas that came from the piece that you are summarizing. What makes a good summary? That's the next thing we're going to look at. A good summary should give an objective outline of the whole piece of writing. It shouldn't be your personal opinion of what you are writing. Instead, your summary should answer the basic question about the original text, such as who did what, where, and when. Or you can answer the question, what is the main idea of the text? What are the main supporting points as well? And what are the major pieces of evidence that you have found? Now, you should not be paraphrasing the whole text in your own words. you should instead make reference to the original piece, and therefore you could start by saying a summary of in the first sentence, and then you move on from there. You should not give your own ideas or criticisms as part of the summary. However, if you want to comment on the piece of writing, it is usually the best thing to do is to be objective as possible. A good summary should not include selected examples, information, or details which are not important to the piece that you are writing, to the piece as a whole. A good summary of an essay should probably include the main ideas of each paragraph and the main evidence or supporting idea. Now, when you're writing the summary, sometimes you're given a lengthy piece, but you're only asked to summarize one aspect of it. And so you have to be very careful of what you're being asked to summarize when you are summarizing. So if that detail is not relevant to the article or to the essay as a whole and to what you're being asked to summarize, then you need not put that section in. A summary does not need a conclusion. So when you're writing the summary, there is no need to put a conclusion in it. But if the original article ends with a message to the reader, then this should not be left out. What you would want to do is to integrate this into the rest of the summary that you are writing. Now, a good summary will often find that you have to use keywords from the original text, but then again, you should not put in whole phrases or sentences from the original quotation marks. Sorry, unless the original are in quotation marks. No, you don't use quotation marks when you are when you're doing your own summaries, and it should only be made if there is a reason for using the original words. But to the best of your ability, try not to quote from the passage that you're summarizing. Instead, you just have to put it in your own words. Now, one of the final step then is to rearrange the words that are used the original words. You have to rearrange these original words, keeping the same structure, but do not just substitute words for words. Do not click on that right button on your laptops or your computers and find a synonym for it. Instead, change it in a way that it becomes your work, but it keeps the main idea that is there. Now, how to write a summary of a short piece of writing, and this is the one that CSEC students will be most interested in. As you read the main article, underline all the important points and all the important evidence. For example, of course, again, you look at the topic sentences. If there is a word or there are words that are repeated through the passage that you're reading, then this is possibly important too. And then again, I wouldn't say possibly, this is most likely relevant to the topic. The transition and words and phrases, you need to use those, and these should help you to understand how the piece flows. The main idea should be at the first or second paragraph. Probably you can use your thesis sentence at this point at the end of the first paragraph, or you can do this in the concluding paragraph. You could look out for the what, the which, the who, the where, the when, the why, and the how. Next up is that you make a list. When you're writing the summary for a short piece, as I said before with the CSEC exam, you are going to list or cluster the main idea of a whole point. You have to find that main supporting idea and the main evidence that comes with each idea. And this is what you're going to use to write your final piece of summary. Be careful that you use your own words instead of just copying the material. And this is just for reinforcement here, people. In other words, try to find your personal style in putting the writer's ideas forward. Of course, you are going to use the keywords, you are going to use the phrases, but at the same time, you have to be careful how you lift a phrase or a sentence from the original piece and think that it's summarizing it because you have changed a single word or two words there. You have to restructure the sentence in a way that makes your own, but at the same time, it maintains the main idea from the original piece. Now, this is important. You can change the order in which the ideas flow in the original piece. If you have to do that, then you can do that. So what you'll find is that if the main idea was not at the first in the original piece and you rearrange it, you can put it at the front of your essay, of your summary. And this then comes with the supporting details following and the evidence, but it doesn't have that logical sequence. Yes, because you would also have removed any repetition that you may have. At the same time, though, you have restructured it. Yes, you have put the most important part first, which is different from the piece that you are writing from, but at the same time, you do have your main idea, you do have your supporting ideas, you have put them in a coherent pattern, and this then would be your summary because you have put it in your own words. If the original piece uses I, then you have to change that I. You cannot use the I in your piece of summary. What you would actually do is, if there is a surname for the person who has written that summary, you would use that surname. If not, you could use the writer, or you could use he or she. Now, if the original article makes use of you, then you would substitute that pronoun you and instead put people or they. And number 5. At this point, if you have covered all of these grounds, you have taken all the main ideas, you have your topic sentences that relate to the main idea that you have, and you have ensured that they flow properly, then you are now ready to write your summary. You will begin with a sentence that identifies the writer and the piece that you are writing. So if the piece was written by John Brown, then you're going to start your summary by saying John Brown speaks to. Whatever the topic is, John Brown is speaking to. So you use the name of the person who has written the article so that whoever is reading it understands that this piece was written by someone else and that it is not your own idea. Now, again, you give the main ideas and you use transitional words to move one idea from another so that they flow in a logical manner. Now, good summaries have 5 criteria. Number 1 is that a good summary shortens the original text. Now, you have to be careful of the length and the word limit that you need to follow. While it should be long enough to include all of the important information from the original summary, you have to be careful that a good summary should be 1/4 to 1/3 in length as the original when compared to the original text. Now, if you are given a word limit, then that is what you will follow. But just as a rule of thumb, if your summary is 3 pages, if your original article is 3 pages, then your summary should be a page or less. It shouldn't be more than that because what you're actually doing is summarizing. Now, the length of your summary, and this is not just for CSEC students, this is for generally if you're doing the English B paper as well, or if you're at a higher level and you want to know about summary writing. The length of your summary depends on the purpose of the summary. Why are you writing this summary? Are you writing a summary of a book? Is it that you're writing a summary for a movie? And so you know you can't use 120 words to do that. But if you're getting the abstract for the English A exam, then you watch the word limit that you're given and you work in accordance with that word limit. Now, number 2 is that a good summary includes only the most important information. So when you're thinking of the most important information, what you really need to think about is this piece of information important for the reader to know about from the original passage? Is it something that I would want to know if someone were to summarize this piece that I am giving them? The summary writer will then want to include enough information to ensure that this is information that the reader wants and that it will also give you a clear understanding of what the piece is about. So number 3, a good summary includes only what is in the message, not what you think, not what another person may think, not a reason for why the person is thinking this way, but it is only summarizing, it is only condensing what is in that passage. A summary comes directly from the original text and does not include information from any other source or any other background knowledge that you as the person who is summarizing has. You have to be very careful that your opinion does not become part of your summary. Number 4, a good summary is written in the summary writer's own words. So again, of course, you'll use main words from the selected passage. You will use phrases from it, but all of this should not be a duplicate of what the original text is, but instead you have paraphrased all of it into your own words and you have said the main thing that the original piece has said. Now, if a phrase or sentence can only be copied, then it should be quoted, but avoid using the quotations as much as possible. What you are working towards in a summary is putting it back into your own words. Number 5, a good summary is well written. The writer will follow the rules of writing. For example, the writer is definitely going to write incomplete sentences. There will be appropriate punctuation marks, capitalization, word usage, and organization. Now, what you need to remember is that the summary is not an outline. It's not a list of things that gives you an outline of what you're doing. Of course, for the CSEC paper, the CSEC English A paper, they ask you for the 5 points first. They will ask you for the 5 points first, but when that is only to list your points at the onset, but the summary itself should not be in a list or bullet format then. It should be in a paragraph or probably 2 if the need arises. Now, here are some things that you need to understand. You avoid using questions. Questions are normally indirect. They're not as efficient as it is for you to restructure that sentence into a statement. And of course, they tend to make the summary longer than it should be. Another convention to follow is that you avoid the first person. Do not use I in your summary, because really and truly that original piece is not yours. So if you were to use I, then you become more personal in writing that summary, and that is what you don't want to do. The summary writer is not the author, and don't forget it. So when you use I, it would appear as if you who are summarizing the passage, that you have actually written that original piece. And it also leads to the use of background knowledge or opinion, which is what you want to avoid when you are writing your summary. When writing a summary of a narrative story, don't forget that you use that third person. Number 3 is that you avoid dialogue. Of course, there may be times when dialogue is the best way to convey it, but for the most part, try not to use dialogue, because it is going to be that you have to put back the exact words of the persons, and that is what you are avoiding in a summary. 4th, you begin the passage with information from the text. Do not begin your summary with the passage was about or I read in the passage. No, you have to be objective when you are presenting it. So as I said before, you want to lean towards calling the author's name of the original text if it is there, or the passage on X, Y, or Z, the passage on motor vehicle accidents shows us that. So you want to be objective when you start. Try not to say the passage was about. Try not to say what I read was. Avoid all of that and be objective. When writing the summary, there are 3 main requirements. 1 is that the summary should not cover the original text as a whole. 2, the material should be presented in a manner that is neutral. You're objective. You don't want to present your own ideas. 3, the summary should be a condensed version, a shortened version then, of the material that you have read. And this material that you have read, you would be expected to present it in your own words. And so, yes, when writing the summary, one of the requirements is that you put that in your own words. Now, remember, you will not appear anything that is not in the original text. You will not put your own personal comments or your evaluation of it. You will not put anything that you think. What you want to put in your summary is what was actually said by the writer. And of course, you definitely have to identify the source that you are summarizing. So, I know this is a lengthy video, yes. I do appreciate you staying to the end of it. I do hope it also helps. But remember too, one of the things I want you to remember that this is just my thoughts. It may not cover all you have wanted to hear, and it may not go into all the details that you have wanted to hear, but at the same time, you can also find other sources. And of course, definitely listen to what your teacher or your lecturer has to say about summary writing too. This is just an attempt to help you to understand what is going on. So thank you so much for watching. If you have watched to the end and you have not subscribed to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and good luck in your schools, in your schoolworks. All right, thank you so much for watching.